Hi, Shelly.
Hi, Frasier.
Thanks for coming back for another tops. I would say flops, but this is only tops.
Yes, because we're doing things different this month.
Yeah, toppies for life.
I didn't say floppies in my video.
I know, I know. I
Yeah,
like I like to just I like to just spring stuff on you.
I know. I know. I know. And then sometimes I don't get it during the live recording. And then when I watch it back, I'm like, oh, I see what you did.
And
And
then
I
delete
laugh.
it.
No, I don't delete it. I edit very little out, only when we're laughing too long.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay,
usually,
cool.
usually. Cool. Well, the thing that we're doing that's different is that tops is we're talking about the best reads on your channel, which is what this video is. And then the worst, the flops, are going to be on my channel.
And
So
having just recorded it, I can recommend it highly to everybody. Yes, it is a good time.
since you co-star in it, you co-host it,
Yeah, well, and I think it's just a good time, you know.
it is a good time.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. So
Who
what are
starts?
we starting with?
Who starts? Do you want to
The book
start?
that we thought about the most?
Yes. Yeah, thought about the most. Yes.
So what book did you think about the most?
I thought about S, the story of the
Oh,
Balkans the most.
that's cool.
Yeah,
I
it
just wouldn't
is.
have guessed that. I was like flipping through all the books you read this month, and I was like, okay, go
Oh,
ahead.
it's intense. Maybe also I read it with Gem of Books over the course of maybe a week and a little bit. So maybe that helped too, because it was like a little bit every day stayed with me, and it is heavy. S is a woman who is caught up in the war, even though she's not participating in it, is relocated to a concentration camp, and it's predominantly taking place in that and through it somewhat. It is exceptionally brutal, stark. It is written in a fictionalized style, but very so personal and insightful to her that it feels like nonfiction at the same time, which creates an interesting dissonance where you cannot really feel distanced from her in the way that if it was wholly one or the other, I typically do, because I've read not a huge amount, I guess, of war stuff like this, but a fair amount. This was definitely the most affecting and impactful kind of version of the story that I've ever read, and
Oh,
very disheartening. So, yeah, it's a book that you need to be prepared to take on, because any beyond what you will imagine in terms of horrible things being done to people will probably happen in this book. And then her internalization of it, her struggling through it, and why she acts the way that she does after and prior is sort of, it just makes like perfect sense basically after, but it's also like heartbreaking and wild and kind of makes you lose faith in humanity and be like, in group out groups, those are the worst things ever, that kind of stuff.
oh. So why did you think about it the most?
Just because there's some very poignant moments in it that resound. Like, she's really great at creating emotional effect for rooting a certain scene into like things that have occurred past and prior, because it's a kind of a dual narrative. It starts out in the present and then it moves backwards, up, forwards through time, and the implications for the stuff that it begins with and the lead up to what her thinking is in the present is just kind of like perfect, and yeah, even more emotional than it is in the beginning, which it still is even in the beginning when you don't even like know who she is. So it's just a really fantastically written book. um yeah, I recommend it as long as you're ready for it, basically. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
How about you?
Okay. So the book I do you want to guess?
that you've thought about the most? Maps.
No, but no. Maps of Our Spectacular Bodies by Maddie Mortimer. No. Let's see. Stag Sleep by Sharon Olds. The
Doing
poetry
maps
collection.
dirty. So why do you think about Stag Sleep the most?
Okay, well, so this is a book of poetry by Sharon Olds, and it's about essentially the time in which her husband says he wants a divorce, and then the process of losing someone in that way, that intimate space and that connection. And then she did a lot of like exploring and soul searching about like what her husband meant to her and who she was next to her husband, which I really liked. But I read this essentially in one day, and I keep on like going back to it because I couldn't believe like how sucked in. I mean, it's a short book, but like sometimes I'll take a couple of days with a poetry book because it doesn't really suck me in. But this, I would like almost couldn't put it down. I felt like she was like, well, she is a confessional poet, but it gave me like that experience as if somebody was like pouring out the deepest, darkest, and most intense truths about themselves. And it was like spattered on the page. But of course, since it's poetry, she's not giving you these long, explanations or details. It was just like these little things. And they were just provoked so much like emotion, even in myself, that I was just like, whoa, like it was almost like, I can't believe she's telling me this, but I was riveted by it at the same time. And I don't know if I've ever had that. And then on top of that, she wasn't like explicit or like, she didn't do like gimmicky things. It just felt like everything she was saying was dripping with truth.
So we both had emotional affecting things that rooted us in our thinking about the most.
Yeah. And I think I also picked this up when I was feeling really emotional. And so to kind of be with someone else as they were feeling emotional, it helped me feel like, helped me process and like get out of myself into her like mind, which was really like refreshing for me in the moment. But I keep on thinking about her. I keep on thinking about her work. I keep on thinking about this. I keep on wanting to reread it. Like, I just can't, like, I don't know what it is. I just can't stop thinking about it. It just has like a je ne sais quoi to it, in which I can't seem to articulate. But I really loved it. And I bought it and read it on a whim, and I'm so glad I did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. What's our next one? The book that we like the most?
The standout or favorite.
What's your standout or favorite? Can I guess?
You can guess.
You were about to grab it. Is it Naps?
It's not.
Okay. Is it A Suitable Boy?
No.
I don't know.
Okay, you get like a little angry about it. It's gonna surprise you, I think.
Oh, yeah, that does surprise me.
Yeah. Claire DeWitt and the City of the Dead by Sara Gran, this is a trilogy, apparently. I thought it was a duology, but it's a trilogy. And I've only read this one so far, but it's just so fantastic. So yeah, I had a few books that are contenders, especially like Maps for one, but I feel like I'm going to be talking about Booker books quite soon, so I wanted to talk about other books.
You're giving previews of coming attractions.
Yeah. But this is just incredible. It's about a woman. So it gave me Dirk Gently holistic detective vibes, if anybody has read or seen that show. I've only seen the Netflix show. That's the sort of weirdness that I'm tapping into. And it's about a woman who has read a famous, esoteric, very small print run detective book about this guy who was like a really, really eccentric but really effective detective, apparently, that predates her significantly. And I think the book is just called Detection. And she is given it by a mentor. And then when she consumes it, it like changes her life completely. and she just decides to become a detective as well under the tutelage, the mentorship of this other person who also follows the ways of detection. And it becomes like a dual narrative as well, where she takes a case. She's very highly selective about things, apparently, and it's in New Orleans, and it is rooted in this past. So it's very noir-esque in that in every journey is a journey inward. In trying to detect the culprit of this thing, a person has gone missing who isn't very, I would say, like a significant person, but kind of plugged into the community. And it's after the flood. So a lot of people are missing. A lot of people don't know what's going on. There's a lot of damage. There's a lot of reorganization, stuff like that. And then she's also uprooting past events. And we figure out how she has become a detective kind of as well in that simpatico story, in which she's under the tutelage of this person. And we're like, what happened to the mentor? It seems to have ended poorly. And it's just very wry humor. It's very my jam. Like, she's just hilarious. It's so deadpan. What?
I was gonna say, is it irreverent?
Yeah, I would say so. And it very much feels like a post-detective novel type thing, where it's critically going up against some of the conventions in a very satirical way that just works. Like, the humor actually lands, and she is also highly competent, even though it seems like she isn't, sort of in the Dirk Gently holistic detective way, where you're like, this guy, I don't think he's a detective, actually. It's kind of like that.
Yeah. You're like,
yeah. And I have the first 2 books of this. I got it at a dollar bin or something like that. And then I saw what Guilty Feet, Daniel at Guilty Feet.
oh,
He
yeah.
made a video that was like books that should be classics but aren't, and this was on it, and I was like, oh, I'll just go pick it up. And then I did, and I was like, yes, concur.
It should be a classic.
Well, I don't know about that, but yeah, it's really great.
yeah. I have that. I found a copy of it, so I can listen to it sometime later. Like, when I'm so far ahead of my 30 books in 30 days challenge that I can fit something like that in, or in the future. Yeah.
What about you?
My favorite, do you want to guess?
Your favorite of the month? I was gonna guess Stag Sleep, to be honest. Because
was my favorite?
Yeah, I thought it was your all-time favorite of the month, because you bring it. So is it? Oh, it can't be Ferrante. That's like my go-to. I don't know then if it's not Stag Sleep. Oh, it is Ferrante. I thought you finished that last month.
I did. I mean, this past
month.
Oh,
yeah, right. Okay. Never mind. Delete.
Do you want to try that again?
No. I'm fine with it. I'm secure.
Okay. Yeah, I read this. This is for for a book club that we meet with offline. And so, yeah, anyways, My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante, which is about, we're all reading this because you recommended it. It's one of your favorites as well. So it's essentially about a neighborhood in Nepal, right? Or in Naples.
Yeah. Well, on the on the outskirts of it.
Yeah, it's a little neighborhood in a tiny place in Naples, and it's telling the story of Lenu, who is a young girl who, as a young person, grew up in this very tiny, impoverished neighborhood, and she has a really good friend, Leela. And interestingly, the thing is that Lenu sort of sees herself. Well, she's insecure. She's quiet, bookish, and also like kind of known as like the good girl. And her friend Leela is like the absolute opposite of that. She is sassy and has an attitude and has her perspective on the world. She's also very smart and articulate and studious, but Lena was presented with opportunities that Leela doesn't get, and that in essence diverges their paths. And so you see, I guess, the fallout or the consequences of their lives because of certain choices that the families make for each woman and the way that each woman make choices. But what I liked about this is that I think I'm obsessed with this idea of a person exploring their internal life while mostly thinking about who they are and thinking about one other person. And she's doing that with Leela, and Lena is doing that with Leela. Sharon Olds is doing that with her ex-husband in this book. And I thought it was just so great. I don't know. I just like, there's just something magical about it that I was so invested in Lenu's struggle that when I read the last page, I immediately had to pick up the next book to find out what happened and see how things resolved. And so quite literally that same night, I like picked up the next book and read the next part because I just had to know. And believe you me, that like never happens to me as a reader. Even if it like ends on a cliffhanger, 99% of the time I'm just like, oh, well, that's a gimmick. I'm just going to not read the next book because I don't like when people do that. But she did it. And I was just like, I must know. I must know. But also like the neighborhood feels really alive. And not only am I invested in Lenu's struggle, I'm invested in like the entire neighborhood. Like I love everybody, even when they're evil, I'm like invested in them in some way. Yeah. I don't know. So yeah, really good.
Yeah, it is. True. Stamp of approval.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that it's a top for you.
Oh yeah. It's so good. And yeah, anyways, I'm gonna put this down. Okay, so our last one is classics. We both have modern classics.
Yes. I'm sure you can guess mine. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I saw.
You saw it?
And I saw you grab the brick, which I'm guessing it's a suitable boy.
Oh yes, it is. Yeah, this is very nearly a perfect book in every way for me. I think it will vary per reader because. Okay, so what is this about?
It's book, by Vikram and Seth.
Yes, it is by that person. And this is about, it starts off at a wedding and you get introduced to all of the characters, but it becomes predominantly about one daughter getting set up in, as is the custom. You can kind of think of her family as landed gentry in Pride and Prejudice, basically. They want to set her up to a good family and of the same religious denomination as them. They do not want her in a different caste nor a different religion. And so they're trying to find a suitable boy. But from that, it spirals out into a lot of different things, kind of like a flower, where the core of the story is finding the suitable boy. But on every petal, it spirals out to socioeconomic circumstances of the entire country and the culture at large, to the degree of like, it's partition fiction as well. And so you get absolutely everything about the political situation as it relates to the colonialism tied to Britain as well, because some of the family members are politicians as well. So there's just, a lot of different characters, but I was never lost or anything about who each person was. It naturally flows. It's very like organic. It is definitely like family drama. It reminded me of Pride and Prejudice at parts for sure because of the romance. There's a number of different boys who might be suitable, and we get their perspective in this. Cool. And then so you're like, it's also in this sort of dawning age of feminism too. So you're like, maybe she won't pick a boy at all. Maybe she'll be alone. Like, maybe this path, maybe she'll be the first one to break the path in the family of doing this. Because she's also highly educated, very smart, and is at the college where she meets the first possibly suitable boy. But her mother thinks he is not because he is of the wrong religious domination. Yeah, it's just so engrossing. Like, I just dive right into it. Didn't want to leave. The writing is exquisite. The character work is exquisite. I think that it might lose some people when it gets into the granular political aspects of it. There's a other sort of main character named Mann, who is like a bad boy as well that you're following. Like, he is in love with a whatchamacallit, kind of like a sex worker, but like high-end one. But it's a cultural thing where she is invited to politicians to sing and to like a courtesan kind of thing. And so the difference is that they paint, like, they're starkly different. You're kind of wondering, is he going to end up being a suitable boy as well, like this bad boy through the story, or what? So there's just like a lot of,
so it's almost
fun.
Like a suitable boy, like like what is one?
Yeah, it's looking at what is that from a socio-political economic standpoint all the way through, so you kind of understand why this decision is actually of some weight and not just kind of a frivolous thing.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that must be heavy.
Perfect. Yeah, it's pretty heavy. And you?
Well, my classic is, I think, perhaps an author that will continue to be read. Like, so this has been like inducted. The book I'm going to show you has won a medal. So I would imagine like a very prestigious medal, and so I would imagine that her work would continue to be read because she's like on the map with awards and stuff like that. Do you want to guess?
I don't know. What you said kind of threw me off. I was like, who is? I don't know. No, I don't want to guess. Show me. Oh,
yeah.
American I just found out about her, like, because you read her, basically. So that's why.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so American Primitive is Mary Oliver's poetry collection, and this won the Pulitzer Prize for poetry for its year. And she has continued to win awards for her poetry and for her work. And it's sometimes it's very like nature, like it's about nature, but not necessarily about like the grotesqueness. It's really about like one's like, I'm not even picking up Graham today. I don't know. There are poems that are about like animals and nature and just enjoying it and looking at it. And then there are just poems about like the inner life. And there was, I don't know, I think what made me sort of pause was there was a poem near the end and I read a few lines and it really touched me in a way that like I just like sobbed, and then I reread it to Ted and I sobbed again. Like I could not even get the words out because it was just so meaningful to me. And then I was like, I think I shouldn't sleep on her and I want to read more. And so I have another book of hers and I have more poems coming to me by her. And yeah, it's really like the overlap of nature and the self, and like finding peace and finding quiet in nature, but also like admiring it and enjoying it, which is basically my jam. So yeah.
Is there any bugs in there?
No bugs, no, but there's like a fish.
Maybe the next one, right? The next one will be transcendent for you. Yeah, bugs, hot button.
I know, I do love my bugs.
Yes.
Like, I don't know why.
For some reason, I just didn't know that she was a big deal. And then ever since you read her, when I see other booktubers talking, they almost like always mention her with poetry. And I'm like, oh, I guess she's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, she's kind of a big deal. Actually, interestingly, this won the Pulitzer Prize for poetry for its year as well. But this was 2009 and this is like 2018 or something. Don't quote me on that, y'all, because I don't actually know. But yeah, so Mary Oliver also was the spotlight for the Naturalist Book Club, ran by Heidi at My Reading Life and Doris at Alda Books. So anybody participating in that book club for this month, if you just read a Mary Oliver poetry, or if you read a Mary Oliver book, you participated. So I wouldn't be surprised if Mary Oliver is sort of sweeping Booktube right now, because the Naturalist Book Club chose her as a spotlight author for this month. So.
Oh, Mary Oliver demystified for me.
Well, yeah, because Britta Buller also talked about Mary Oliver, and yeah, but she did it because the Naturalist Book Club. Yeah.
All makes
and
sense
I did too.
now.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see more of what she has going for her in terms of poetry, because this is just a really slim collection. So yeah.
Cool. We'll see next month. Maybe will it be a top or a flop, Oliver? Let's see how you perform.
Oh gosh, I don't think she'll be flopped. I hope not.
I don't know. No bugs again?
Give me all of the creepy, crawly, gross things. Yeah, I know. I'm like,
sure,
what?
Shelly.
They have 9 heads and 3 throats and 7 stomachs. That's so amazing.
Yeah. I'm glad you enjoyed that.
I'm sorry.
That's cool.
Well, thanks for having me on your channel.
Yeah, thanks for having me on your channel for the flops, which people should go watch now. If you like this, tune in more.
There's more. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna go. Bye.